Hi there. Welcome to SBY Spotlight, where I shine the light on some of my favorite guests and topics that I think you'll enjoy. If you don't know me, I'm Sarah Beth, an online yoga teacher leading millions online to get fit, happy, and healthy through yoga. And I'm thrilled today to bring you my friend Brett, an online yoga teacher who also leads yoga teacher trainings, has certified more than 2,000 people through her yoga teacher training program, including over 1,000 of those have done her Kundalini Yoga teacher training. She also has 500,000 subscribers on YouTube. And today we're going to talk about Kundalini Yoga. Before we get into that, I want to ask you real quick. Have you tried Kundalini Yoga? What was your experience? Let me know in the comments below. And now let's get into it. Thank you so much for joining us today, Brett. I wanted to ask you, what is Kundalini Yoga?
Kundalini yoga is often described as the yoga of awareness. So, a lot of us are familiar with hatha and vinyasa yoga, and those styles are really focused, of course, on the spirit, but a lot of the asana are really focused on strengthening the muscles, gaining more flexibility. Kundalini yoga is a little bit different in that its primary focus is on the energy body rather than the physical body. And it works very much with the glands and the organs, meridian channels. So you see a lot of repetitive type of movements where there's maybe less flow and more doing a twist over and over and over again, left to right with a specific breath pattern. And what this does is it kind of helps you notice your habitual reactions to stress. So, Kundalini Yoga is really designed to elevate your awareness of your own subconscious programming and work on an energetic level to change how you're manifesting things in your life. So, that is kind of how it's different from more traditional hatha vinyasa practice, if that makes sense.
That's cool. So you're kind of putting your body under stress to train yourself how to be under stress?
Exactly. There's a common Kundalini phrase where they talk about, practicing in order to gain nerves of steel. And a common example I like to give here that a lot of people may be familiar with is like we play with this same concept in hatha and vinyasa too. When I'm holding a chair pose for a really long time and I'm breathing and my muscles are sore and I want to come out of it, but the teacher hasn't said I can yet, we're cultivating, expanding our capacity to deal with stress. It's such a misconception that yoga is just about relaxation. We want that healthy balance. We want to have a healthy stress response, expand our comfort zone. And so Kundalini yoga is really working with that specifically. And in addition, it really has a huge focus on mantra and meditation. So kind of all the weirder aspects of like yoga that people might not be as familiar with, like chanting or longer meditations with mudras in repetitive movements. Those are all the kind of things we're seeing in Kundalini yoga.
I love using mantra and meditation, separately and together even, because I feel like mantra helps me stay focused. Real quick, what is mantra in Kundalini Yoga?
So if we dissect the word matra, this is like a wave of the mind. So Kundalini yoga really works with music. Like Kundalini and music are conjoined at the hip. So this idea of uniting, there's even beyond, I think a lot of us are familiar with like the limbs of yoga. Kundalini almost has like this extra limb called the Shabad Guru, which is like the primal sound current. It's pretty fun. So if you're someone who has trouble focusing in meditation, which so many people do, adding in a mantra or adding in some of these more specific mudras that can be challenging, but also really serve to anchor your attention. A really simple example of one that's brilliant is Kirtan Kriya. So you just say a mantra as you press your thumb to each finger. Sa, ta, na, ma. So that's a really beginner, super user-friendly way to start playing with some of these ideas. Just an example. Like it's not all hard. I just, I had a very strong reaction to Kundalini yoga when I first tried it, coming from the Hatha Vinyasa lineage, just because it was so different and the poses really challenge me. So I always like to just set that frame that like if that's happening to you, that's normal. And I know we want to talk about beginners. So I'm like already going there.
Let's talk about beginners. Can a beginner do Kundalini Yoga?
definitely, but I think they really want to pick the right class and the right approach. So I can share what happened to me, which is that when I first decided to try Kundalini yoga, I just went to the hardcore Kundalini yoga studio in my neighborhood, and I had a really overwhelming experience, Sarah Beth. Like the Kriya, and the Kriya is what you call like a yoga sequence in Kundalini yoga, a set of moves, really triggered me really badly, where I was, cursing inside my head. I was going down this negative thought spiral. And I actually ended up having a headache. I had almost like an allergic reaction to this style of yoga. And I ended up not practicing it for 3 years. I'm really selling it, right? But, they say what challenges you is where the magic happens. So I circled back years later. And what I realized, and what I tell everyone, is for me in that example, the Kundalini yoga didn't make me angry. It was actually, because it's the yoga of awareness, it was showing me all this anger that was already there. I just wasn't ready in that particular moment to process it. And that Kriya and that teacher was teaching something way too advanced for my nervous system to be able to handle. So one of the things that I have really focused on in all the Kundalini yoga I teach is making it extremely beginner friendly and accessible. So you won't have that kind of jarring reaction that I did. And there's not a lot of teachers who focus on this because they want to teach the traditional Kriyas as they were set. I'm a little bit of a renegade in the sense that I'm like, that's too much for a lot of people right away. So if you practice Kundalini with me on YouTube or go deeper with the course, that's my primary focus, is like, how can you have baby taste of some of these moves? And in my beginner series, like we don't even do a full Kriya until I think 6 or 7 classes in. So it's a much gentler approach. So beginners can do this. I think you just want to be very careful about what you do and who you're choosing to do it, and have they really designed it for beginners. Don't just leap into some random thing you find.
That really aligns with me and the way that I teach too. I feel like we're really similar in that way. And I think teaching online kind of makes you that way because you never know who's going to walk into the classroom. So a lot of people wonder, how do you practice Kundalini yoga? How is it different? I mean, you mentioned the kriyas, the repetitive movement, mantra, mudra. How does an entire practice look different? And maybe this is a second question, but is Kundalini yoga considered good exercise?
So these are great questions. Again, Kundalini yoga is experiencing a renaissance right now and a bit of a transformation. So there's a lot of rabbit holes we can go down here. But the original founder of Kundalini yoga in the West here is Yogi Bhajan. And he designed these kriyas, these sequences, to be done in a very specific way for a specific time in a specific order. The magic of this is like we have a kriya to detoxify the liver. It's almost like a prescription we can use and do this sequence of moves if we want a particular effect. However, a lot of people now don't want to be associated with Yogi Bhajan and what he was teaching, which is a whole other story, but covered in my course. And they want a new way to practice this ancient teachings, which predate Yogi Bhajan. He was just the one who brought them here. So the kriyas are going through a renaissance. So like a typical Kundalini Kriya is like you would start by tuning in. So there's a very specific chant, which I love. And then you do, a certain set of moves with very precise timing. A lot of those repetitive movements and postures, like I kind of described earlier. And then you'd end, of course, with a meditation. So this is familiar. What might be unfamiliar is it's not necessarily a ton of stretching. It's not a lot of stuff like Surya Namaskar where you're flowing. So what I do and how I practice, which again is controversial, is I, take some Kundalini key warm-up moves that you might see in Kriyas, and I kind of integrate them into my own little Kundalini warm-ups. I often also practice Vinyasa yoga because like you, I love it. And then I sit down and I do a structured Kriya. So I keep the Kriya intact, but I kind of tack on my own little vinyasa warm up. And then after the Kriya is over, some yin might feel really good. So I do that. So I think a lot of the questions I see on social media about Kundalini yoga is like, what's allowed? How can I adapt? How can I change? And the answer to that really depends on who you ask. But I would say I am much more in the realm of, your body best, here are guidelines, but we don't need to take what was handed down to us as doctrine, especially with how this lineage is changing and evolving right now. So in terms of how you practice it, it's like it can look so many different ways. And I think that's what's exciting about Kundalini yoga right now is like you can get the best of the whole poke, provoke, elevate kind of yoga of awareness piece, but you can do it on your own terms. And that's what I'm really passionate about helping people figure out.
So can somebody mix Kundalini yoga with like vinyasa and yin in the same practice, but also like within a same week, like a whole routine of that?
Definitely. One of the most popular aspects of my course is this program called 40-Day Kriya, where you actually do the same practice every day for 40 days. And I do use a traditional Kundalini Kriya with a particular set, but just because of my audience and the students I tend to attract, I do add on a little vinyasa warm up. So you get that piece in while you still go on this Kundalini exploration.
I love that. And
Yeah.
I saw you have the 40-day Kundalini Kriya as part of your, like a bonus on that
It
Kundalini
is.
course. So the Kundalini Demystified course is one of Brett's courses that she's using to teach people Kundalini. It's really great for beginners. It's something that I wanted to talk to you about today. But before we get into that, Brett, you've helped hundreds of people through your Kundalini course, thousands of people through your Kundalini yoga teacher training. What is the number one way that you've seen this course transform their lives?
It really gives you an awareness of the programs that are running your life. A lot of us are not aware that we have a love program that operates when we like someone or a fear program, and we have these habitual reactions. All yoga helps with this, but Kundalini yoga is like the rocket ship that really blows up your ability to gain a higher level awareness of those programs and of your life, because the kriyas are specifically designed to do that. So I think the big breakthroughs people are having is, they're realizing they're not their thoughts. They're seeing these default programs that are running their life, but the Kundalini yoga with the repetitive movements and the breath, it's almost like setting a little catalyst off inside your body with all the breath work and all the moves that actually helps you reprogram. So it's detoxifying. I always say, if you're already feeling like at rock bottom, Kundalini is probably not, it's not the best time. When you feel courageous, when you're like, I want a transformation, I'm ready to shift something in my life, that's when you want to get pulled in and start playing with this kind of yoga.
Wow, you are such a natural teacher and so knowledgeable. Thank you so much for joining me today and for introducing Kundalini to my audience.
You are so welcome.
If you want to learn more about Kundalini Yoga, then check out Brett's Kundalini Demystified course and save $50 off at checkout using the code SBY50. Click the first link in the description below. And if you want to learn more about Brett, check out her YouTube channel, Brett Larkin Yoga. Now, I can't wait to read some of your comments below about your experience with Kundalini, and have a great day. Namaste.